Hi everyone, this is Niharika from Your Legal Career Coach. We are a mentorship platform for law students, and on our YouTube channel, you will find us interviewing students and industry professionals to make your journey easier. Today, we have with us Gargi Chaudhary, who graduated from Shankarrao Chauhan Law College in Pune in 2024 and is an incoming Singhvi Trinity Scholar for pursuing her Masters of Law degree from University of Cambridge. In this session, she will guide us and talk about her journey to being awarded the Singhvi Trinity Scholarship for pursuing her Masters from University of Cambridge. Welcome, Gargi. I request you to please introduce yourself to our audience, after which we can begin with the session.
Thank you so much, Niharika. My name is Gargi, and I recently graduated from Pune University. I specifically went to Shankarrao Chauhan Law College, and I'm headed to Cambridge now for my LLM. And yes, as Niharika said, I have been awarded the Singhvi Trinity Scholarship, which is a full scholarship that is given to one Indian student every year by Senior Advocate Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi and Trinity College, Cambridge.
Great. To begin with, you decided immediately to pursue an LLM after graduation. So, what was the rationale behind taking that decision? And did you not think of getting some experience before applying for an LLM?
Right. So I have always had this clarity from the second year itself, but in those initial years, you don't tend to take these plans seriously because A, you haven't you don't explore anything by that point, and B, the industry is always volatile, right? With pandemics happening and stuff like that happening. But I always had that clarity that I wanted to pursue my post graduation education abroad. Now, that clarity, I mean, that idea sort of took place sharply. And I mean, uh, I was more firm on that decision of mine because after spending 5 years in my undergrad college, I wanted a deeper engagement with law itself. So learning law is basically two things, right? It's reading comprehension and it's logical reasoning. So I felt that my university took care of the first part, that is reading comprehension, and I knew what the law was, but I felt like I needed the understanding of how the law came to be shaped like this, or or the nuances of law, right? How do you connect the dots logically? What is the rationale behind certain things, and how to look at law from a critical point of view? So that was one of the reasons. Secondly, I think I mean, everyone wishes to be a part of a larger circle at a larger scale, right? So I wanted to be a part of a global cohort where I could learn from various other students. I think law cannot be learned in isolation. There are many point of views that come into picture when you're thinking about a certain law, be it constitutional law or criminal law. And I think it's crucial to keep yourself open to exploring those axes as well. So those were the two reasons. First being the need to, I mean, just um, deeper engagement with law itself, and secondly, I mean, I wanted a global platform and really wanted to learn from the best professors around the world.
Absolutely. What were the key factors that led you to choose Cambridge for your LLM, and did you also receive any other offers?
Yeah, I did actually. I received an offer from University of Oxford from for a master's in criminology and criminal justice course, and I received LLM offers from London School of Economics and Political Science and New York University and a couple of other universities in the UK that I had applied to. But the reason I chose Cambridge was, again, I mean, the scholarship was a huge factor because the expenses for this 1 year course are immense, and the economies across countries are not doing well. So that was a calculated decision that I made of, I mean, this is a full scholarship, right? It takes care of everything. So that was one of the reasons why I joined Cambridge. And even without the scholarship, I think Cambridge is one of the top universities. I went on the website before applying and I checked all the clubs and societies and activities they have. So, Cambridge Union or Cambridge uh, Pro Bono project, and all these projects played a crucial role because I think um, that somehow implied that Cambridge is not a place where you'll only learn the theory of law or the black letter of law, right? So that was one of the reasons I checked the the societies, and I was extremely interested in the projects they were undertaking. So that is one part. Secondly, I think Cambridge, because it's a, I mean, there were a couple of professors who taught constitutional law there. Unfortunately for me, they have moved to Oxford this year, but the professors who are teaching there and the kind of mentorship they provide you, that also was a factor for me when I weighed in. And I think, yes, scholarship again. And these were a couple of things that I was looking for. And I thought that Cambridge sort of brought all of them together for me. So that's why I chose Cambridge. And I mean, I think I forgot answering your question earlier as to why I'm going as a fresher and why I haven't taken a break for work. So because I mean, I think and I still feel like I need more theoretical and practical understanding of formal education of law for me to be able to make those choices as to where I want to go. That's why I'm going right after my graduation, and that's why I started applying in my final year. And I think um, for even for work, I mean, I did not really have the clarity of where I wanted to work after graduation.
Right.
So the lack of clarity about professional working experiences was also something that led me to this decision. And yes, that's why I think I made the decision of going right after graduation.
Right. Can you please share the application process at the Cambridge University for international students? And could you also tell us about any challenges that you faced as a fresher during the application process and how you handled them?
Right. So application process is fairly simple. I think one advice that I would like to give to everyone watching this interview is to start early. Cambridge, the deadline for Cambridge LLM application is always in the first week of December, but the application itself involves a lot of components. So you want to start early so that you can give due weightage and thought and deliberation to each of these components. And because I mean, those components are very crucial to our application. I mean, there is this application where you have to fill the form, but then there are transcripts, there are LORs, there are a statement of purpose, and I'll talk about each of these things. But I mean, it is not the case that the application process or the process for um, creating a meritorious application for LLM begins in the final year, right? From what I have learned or from what I believe, I think it starts from the day you enter law school. What is your conduct like? What are the things you are doing? How you are spending your time? What are the activities you are doing? And if you have a general clarity, because for these applications, I think it is very crucial to have a coherent story as to what you have done in the past and what you would like to do in the future. So first and foremost, I think academic grades are extremely important. There is no redemption from bad grades. Oxford and Cambridge are the two universities who receive applications from wonderful applicants from all over the world. So I have, in fact, recently, I saw this case where this girl completed her undergraduate education from Cambridge, but she could not manage to get a first class. So her offer for postgraduate course was withdrawn. So they are merciless about this. So please keep your academic grades intact. Make sure you are at least in the top 2 to 3% of your class. And I mean, none of this is to say that academic intelligence is what matters the most. I don't believe in that. I don't think that, I mean, lawyering and advocacy skills are quite different from writing papers and um, learning bare acts. But I think if that is a criterion for you to get into a good university, just uh, don't stress it and make sure that box is ticked. And your final year grade is also taken into consideration. So your job is not done once the applications are started. In fact, it is even a harder task to maintain those grades after you are, so that it is not the case that you had gotten the conditional offer, but it was withdrawn because you could not secure a final good grade. So that is one thing. Please keep the academic transcripts and academic grades intact. Secondly, I think another crucial point of applications are the LORs. So Cambridge needs 2 letter of recommendations from your professors. Oxford needs 3 LORs, all three of them academic, and Oxford also needs 2 essays, which I mean, which is very subject specific. So it's not something that is useful for general audiences here. But the LORs have to be academic. You cannot take LORs from say your internship supervisor, no matter how much time you have spent doing that internship, because at the end of the day, LLM is an academic degree. The academic rigor there is intense, and what they are looking for from an applicant is just an assurance from their teachers that okay, this person can survive or do well in this ecosystem. So that is extremely important. So that's the point of the applications and the application components beginning in the very first year of your law school. It's therefore important to have a good reason, a good relationship with your professors, because otherwise the professors would not agree to sign your LOR, and then it becomes a task to run from one professor to other. So just maintain a respectable attendance. Let allow do collaborations, writing papers. Just be a good student, because there is nothing good that comes out of just being a I mean, not so sincere student, right?
Right.
So keep good relationship with your professors. And for LORs, I mean, the LLM application deadline is 5th of December every year. It might change this year. Just be sure, do this research in 6 months in advance. But you cannot submit your own LORs after getting them signed. So the university portals will send links to your professors, and then they will upload those things. So make sure you are communicating with your professors in advance, because you think that it is just a letter and they'll do it, or it won't take that much time, but they have 10 other people coming to them for letters, and they have other responsibilities of institution related work, or other things as well. So just make sure you give them a good enough time window to sort of deliberate on the content of your LORs and the printing process, because it has to be on a letterhead, and emailing stuff, because this happened with me as well. One of my professors had gotten the link, but then that got lost, and that took a lot of time, and it is really bothersome when the deadline is approaching. Like, you don't want to
Right.
miss out on putting in your application simply because a link to LOR could not be found. So that's about LORs. Thirdly, I think about SOPs, statement of purpose. Even SOPs, I would say they take a lot of time, because I mean, I personally had some 15 drafts of SOPs by the end of this application cycle, where I was tailor making them for each universities. Now, SOPs are also very crucial, because those are all the things you say, or those are the things you sort of use, the things you write to enhance your CV. Even CV, a two-pager CV is required by every university. But SOPs, I mean, SOPs are extremely helpful, because they give you a chance to explain your thought process to a university as to why you want to go there. So that's why I was saying that in SOPs, in your CV, and in your application in general, these universities, I think, look for a coherent story as to your past, your present, and your future. The whatever it is that you plan on learning at Cambridge or any other university, you have to tell them about why Cambridge, why Oxford, and why these particular universities, and what is the advantage that they are offering over other universities in the world. So that is one thing. The most of the time CV is just CV just data about all the things you have done, right? So it helps when your CV shows 10 internships related to, say, intellectual property rights, and your SOP says that, hey, I did 10 internships and I learned this, and I want to learn more on that, and this is what I aim on doing in future. So that story needs to be
Right.
proper. Your CV cannot be showing 10 litigation internships only for you to say in your SOP that you want to pursue, say, corporate law. So
Right.
that doesn't make sense. So make sure those the two things, and even SOP, I mean, your future plans need to have some nexus with things that are offered at Cambridge.
Right.
Otherwise, I mean, why would you make an investment? And it's a huge investment. Paying for these universities, it's not cheap.
Right.
So that's why I think it helps to have a nice story of where you are coming from and where you want to go.
Right.
So that is another thing. And I think then there are also things like your CV and again the English language test results, but I think those are I mean those can be taken care of once you start writing your application itself. But again, I mean, for you, for it's a 4 year long, 5 year long process. I'm not saying that you should start from the first year itself, but it is for sure you can't start thinking about it 2 months before the deadline. That won't get you anywhere. You need some evidence to show, you need your thoughts to support them. So just take care of these things and start early. The websites are available everywhere. Start 1 year in advance, 2 year in advance. Approach your seniors, because I think people who go through these processes can tell you, give you a better idea than what the website says. Because more often than not, these websites are also not updated. So it's
Right.
better to approach people, connect them with them on LinkedIn, and just start early.
Right, right. Absolutely. What kinds of specializations does Cambridge offer? And did you opt for a general LLM or a specialized one?
So the thing is that I'm going for a general LLM, and when you write the application, you can't specify. I mean, the applications are only for general LLMs,
Okay.
and from the modules you choose, you could either specialize in international law, which is basically Cambridge students are supposed to take 4 modules that they'll be learning for an entire year, and if uh, 3 out of those 4 modules are international law, then it is said that you are specializing in international law.
Right.
Other than that, there is no specialization, at least from what I know. And there is also, I think, specialization in corporate law, or law available, but then that degree is not called Master of Law, it's MCL degree,
Okay.
which is Master of Corporate Law. So that the degree itself shows the name. So I think these two specializations are available. And I'm going for a general LLM.
Right. Scholarships and financial aid are very crucial for students, like you also stated right now. So could you tell us about any scholarships that you found as a fresher and how you found those scholarships? So if you could also tell us about any resources maybe where all this information is collected. And could you also tell us how to track these scholarships as a fresher?
Right. So I mean, it is as simple as a simple Google search. You just have to search, and there'll be 10 links. Just be diligent about it. Click on those links. Make an Excel sheet. I think making Excel sheets so that you don't miss the deadlines is crucial,
Right.
because it gives you it keeps everything together, and then you don't have to click on the links every time you want to learn about a scholarship. So just make an Excel sheet as to name of the scholarship, deadline, and the materials required for it. Because even for scholarships, LORs are required, statement of purpose is required, and SOPs for scholarships are different than SOPs for applications, of course, because the added part of you writing about why you need financial aid, and why their investment could be worth it. So even for that, I think, again, same, a crucial story. Your CV acts as an evidence for everything that you are saying in your SOP. And I think it helps to have a pro community angle, right? Like, I
Right.
want to do better for my community. It could be any community, but I mean, just letting them know that the knowledge I'll be getting will not solely be used for my own career advancement, but there is a bigger picture that I see. Now, it is, I mean, it's, I mean, and I say this for law. Many people also get scholarships for corporate law, but I don't know what factor weighs in when scholarships for corporate law related pursuits are given. So, this was the factor for me. Now, I mean, I was extremely good with, and I am good with, I think, internet research, right? And I think people miss out on how a simple search could lead you to 1,000 possibilities.
Right.
For example, I have a lot of people approaching me right now, but when I was their age, I was doing it. I mean, I was researching on this, right? And I think it is extremely simple with a laptop and a mobile.
Right.
There should be no difficulty. And looking at other people's LinkedIn profiles, looking for YouTube videos on how these people did things. I think it's extremely crucial. It's not a blueprint of success or anything, because I think no two applicants are same, or no two journeys can be same. To each his own, really. But I think it's crucial to use the resources that are very easily available.
Right.
And there are many scholarships which are basically a loan type scholarship, where they give you loans and they don't charge any interest on it. And
Right.
if you end up doing exceptionally well, that money is awarded to you. They don't ask for it again. So there are many loan scholarships, for example Jane Tata scholarship, or KC Mahindra, or Narottam Seksaria scholarship. But these scholarship, and I'm not I mean, I can't recall their individual criteria right now, but um, I think it's very important to be aware of the eligibility criteria for these scholarships. For example, say for a scholarship like Chevening scholarship, there is an added criteria of mandatory work experience. So if you have not had any work experience, you are automatically ineligible for various scholarships. So I think it's crucial to not waste your time writing applications for those when you know you don't fulfill a criterion, sorry. So it's important to have a list of eligibility criteria. There are need based scholarships, and there are merit based as well. Now, need based scholarships give you an income bracket, and if your household income doesn't fall within if it falls within that bracket, then you are eligible for it. And it requires a lot of banking statements, financial proofs for those applications, because I mean, again, money related matters. So it's important to be diligent about those things and do your due diligence, so that when you are writing the application, you are not running around finding documents. So it's nice to have that link. There are also scholarships like the INLAC scholarship, or Chevening, or Rhodes scholarship, which are very very prestigious scholarships. I mean, those tags make your life easier. That's what I believe. I mean, it's not necessary that the persons receiving them will be successful in general, but these tags tend to open a lot of doors for you. So that is one thing. And a lot of universities have, other than these external scholarships that have independent applications, uh, many universities have internal scholarships as well. So, for example, the one I have received, Singhvi Trinity Scholarship, it's given by Trinity College, Cambridge, and Senior Advocate Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi. So, Cambridge also has a lot of scholarships under the Cambridge Trust, where they, I think, Cambridge Trust gives lot of scholarships. Then Commonwealth related scholarships for applicants coming from Commonwealth countries are also available. A good source to look for scholarship is government websites. Indian government also, and I think the UK government as well, offer a wide variety of scholarships to foreign students. So it's, I mean, it all it takes is one Google search. I can promise you that it's not complicated than that. But what requires a little more deliberation, and what I think, where a good mentor or guidance could really help, is the application itself, as to what to write and how I mean, what it is that they are looking for, because that information is not easily available. So then it helps to look at other people's profiles who have already done it.
Right.
What's their journey been like? How have they gotten to this point? So that helps you, that gives you a direction. um, so yes, internal scholarships and external scholarships. Now, for Cambridge scholarships, the process is fairly simple. The list of the scholarships is included in the LLM application itself. So all you have to do is really tick a box.
Okay.
They give the cri- criterion thing, but I think it's I mean, it's fairly simple, where you just have to tick the box. And I think then from the pool of applicants, when the LLM candidates are shortlisted, I think then among those students, the merit of a LLM application is tested or considered for these scholarships.
Right. So you were awarded the Singhvi Trinity Scholarship. Could you please discuss about the scholarship? How did you get to know about it? How did you apply, and what are the perks that come along with the scholarship?
Yes, so I actually got to know when I was doing my research on Cambridge LLM application. That's where I got to know that every year one Indian student is awarded this scholarship because Dr. Singhvi, I think, went to Trinity College, Cambridge, and he also pursued his PhD at Cambridge. So he started this scholarship in his father's name, I believe his name is Mr. Lakshmimal Singhvi, a fine jurist, a very, very learned jurist. So that's how I got to know about this scholarship. And I the again, I mean, the application for this scholarship was included in the LLM application itself. But for you to get this scholarship, you have to be accepted into Trinity College. So I'll just explain what the college system is, right? So in Cambridge and Oxford, colleges are basically the places where you stay and where you eat. So basically hostels, but they call it college because it's a huge thing about the colleges being, I mean, these are ecosystems of their own. And even though the LLM classes are conducted together for candidates from various other colleges, college is basically where you stay. So Trinity College, you have to be accepted into Trinity College for you to be you to get this scholarship. Now, it is not the case that so I had put preference for Trinity, not only because of this scholarship, but I think Trinity is the best college in Cambridge. If it has a huge history, and they have still preserved Newton's apple tree and stuff like that. So I really wanted that experience of living at Trinity. So I had put that preference, and so generally the LLM candidates, I mean, only one candidate gets to live at Trinity because of this scholarship and because it's also funded by Trinity College itself from their bursaries. So I had put that preference, and luckily for me, I think I got into Trinity. Um, there are some criterias from what I know about this scholarship, and those being academic merit and commitment to making community around you better, and um, I mean, just a good skill set perhaps, but that was the thing. And these criterion, I mean, these are not listed on the Singular Trinity website itself, but I remember hearing this somewhere about these being the criteria. So that was the thing. And so yeah, so that's how the process went.
Right. And if you could tell us about any perks that come along with the scholarship.
Yeah, so perks, I mean, it's a full scholarship. It takes care of your university fee and your maintenance over at Cambridge. I mean, they're so kind to cover my visa costs and insurance related and airfare as well. And I think this year Trinity College has also started some emoluments for research and stuff like that. So these are the perks. I mean, perks are basically these, and I think these factors are extremely crucial because these financial things sort of predict your financial trajectory for the next 10 years, right?
Right.
Not only, I mean, it's not only your decision, it also affects your parents and your family and your life goals in general.
Right.
So that is also another thing. So yes, it's an honor.
It's
Um,
absolutely an honor.
yeah.
Right. So what are your plans post LLM? Do you think of working in London or do you intend to come back to India?
No, I have no concrete plans as of right now. I'm headed to Cambridge next week, so I'm still a bit anxious about settling there. So I mean, we'll see wherever. I mean, I have been told that Cambridge gives you opportunity that you wouldn't even have thought of. So
Right.
so yeah, I'm looking forward to, let's see where life takes me.
Right.
Have some ideas, but no concrete plans as of now.
Right. Based on your own journey and experiences, what advice would you offer to current aspirants?
Right. So, I mean, if there is one thing that I would want our viewers to take away from this interview is perhaps the fact that all these things, because I was that kid who once walked into my college in the first year and I was like, what is my career trajectory going to look like if I don't have that NLU tag? And my college was absolutely the best, very supportive principal, ma'am, very, very interactive and encouraging faculty members. So that was the thing. But at the end of the day, you still wonder if those non-NLU tags matter when you go for internships.
Right.
So it took a lot of resilience on my part to prove that simply because I don't have that tag doesn't mean that I don't possess the merit to deserve a good opportunity. So just make sure you are doing things right, because I think the difference between non-NLU and NLU folks doesn't really start after they are done with their degrees. It starts from the first day itself, right? Because the rigor in NLUs gives those kids some employability skills or clarity on what they want to do, but there is no reason why a non-NLU person should not have that. Should they have uh, their own intentions, and if they wish to pursue more and if they want more from them. So that is one thing. Secondly, please do not self reject ever. I think what we tend to do when opportunities are thrown our way is we tend to be overly self critical as to we just have this understanding of whether or not we are the deserving candidate. So we, many a time, we don't end up applying only. So
Right.
just take a shot. Let them tell you no. Not applying is you telling you no, as it is. So just make sure you are hearing a no from other person. Don't be dejected, just keep going.
Right.
And I think don't I mean I have been getting a lot of questions about Oxbridge journey and what to do and what not to do, but I think that's a very convoluted and twisted way of doing things. Like, don't start doing stuff in your first year or second year because you want to end up at Cambridge or Oxford in your last year. That's a good vision to have, and I think it's extremely crucial. But all these admissions also have a luck factor involved in them. It's dicey. So do the things you enjoy. Make sure you have at the end of 5 years you have the knowledge or the skills that you can vouch for, or that you have something that you're bringing to the table, be it at an office or a postgraduate institution.
Right.
So yes, that is, focus more on becoming a person who is worthy of getting into these institutions than uh, uh, doing it in that convoluted way.
Right.
So just explore and do well, and all the best. And NLU non-NLU doesn't matter, you can do it.
Right. With this, I believe we've covered all the important things that we needed to know about LLM from Cambridge and the Singhvi Trinity Scholarship. Thank you so very much for accommodating our request. Despite your busy schedule, I know you're headed to Cambridge just next week, and I know there's a lot of packing pending as well. I'm very positive this video will be of utmost help for everyone who's watching it. Once again, on behalf of ILCC, I thank you for being with us here today, and I wish you the best for your journey ahead. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Niharika. Thank you for this wonderful interview, and thank you to YLCC as well.